NERDSoul.
So, guys, we have another story I want to move on to, which is They've Gotta Have Us. Mm-hmm. Netflix has a documentary by Array, which is Ava DuVernay's company, and the documentary is a series based on Black people in film. There's only a couple of things that I want to touch on in it, but I do think that it's incomplete, if I may say. Big shout out to Panda. Panda said, an email is a letter. I agree with you, nerd. Everything else is semantics. Why? Thank you. Oh, why? Thank you. But nah.
Try sending an email through the postal service. Can't be done because it's not the same thing.
Oh man! But with that said, they had this documentary. It centers around Black people in film. They have like Harry Belafonte. They have Robert Townsend. They have Daniel Kaluuya. Who else did they have in there? They talked about Jordan Peele and stuff like that. They had some other luminaries that were talking about like Moonlight, and talked about John Boyega. He was in there. You know, things of that nature that talked about like Black people in film. There's a couple of issues that they touched on that I thought was interesting. You want to talk about Jussie first?
Sure.
All right, so Jussie Smollett is in there. And Jussie, all right, we know what went down with Jussie. And I'm not a super fan of Jussie, but we know what happened with Jussie.
So if you're not sure, we're referring to Jussie Smollett.
Jussie Smollett, all right? So Jussie's on there, and he's like, you know, the films are so important and representation is so important because do you know what Hattie McDaniels went through? Do you know what Sidney Poitier went through? I'm like, do you? Because you pretended to go through something that they probably really did go through, and now you trying to reap the benefits. And had the nerve to put your butt on a documentary. This is probably before that happened though. I don't know, maybe it wasn't. But I'm like, dude, whenever you get in trouble, you're supposed to lay low. It's like,
but, so yeah, I'm sure it was done before that.
It was probably done before that. The documentary, so they have Jussie on there or Jussie on there on some, do you know what they went through? I'm like, do you? And then they have another segment that they touched on, which was Black British actors taking what would be termed as a very quintessential American role, American Black role. For instance, David Oyelowo playing Dr. Martin Luther King, or Daniel Kaluuya playing the boyfriend to, I cannot remember the actress's name, but in Get Out. You know, two things that are very Black American-y. And there's other roles as well that have been brought up. And I guess the first kind of thing that was brought up was by Samuel L. Jackson a while ago. So they jump on this topic, and it's very surface level and almost making it seem like there's not a conversation to be had about this because we're all Black. And did you want to, because I have something I want to dive off into, but I don't want to, I don't want you to lose your thought if you got one.
Well, I just, just like we were talking about, the African American experience is very different and very unique.
True.
And, so I think that has to be thought about, and, in making movies and making art, you have to be sensitive to that fact. It's not to make it them against us. It's not that at all. But I don't think it's fair, to put someone who is not African American, even though they are Black, in a certain position and play a certain role, and expect them to be able to portray on film the same way that an African American could. Just because as an African American, just because we, you and I, did not, in our, your generation, my generation, we didn't go through the things our parents did, but our parents did.
Yeah,
our grandparents did.
And we've heard stories.
And experiences, and we know about those things. And so that's actually,
and we lived in the fallout from that generation.
So that's part of our history, part of our culture, and innately part of us. That's a totally different experience for blacks that are not African American. And I think they need to be sensitive to that. We're not making it an us against them thing. We're just saying it's no different than asking, white people to recognize us and saying, you need to be sensitive to what our experience is.
Yeah. And in that, I think this documentary was essentially a lot of people that were Ava DuVernay's friends got together and told the story of black cinema. They skated over blaxploitation, which, for better or for worse, put a lot of black people to work, put a lot of black people in the forefront, and brought a lot of awareness to the collective consciousness of blackness at that time. Even if it was just a fraction of it, at that time brought awareness to it. Dolomite, the Mac, stuff like that. They just brushed over that, but then wanted to talk about Moonlight over and over and over, as if that was the only black film that existed. And don't get me wrong, I have no hate against Moonlight. Got awards and all kinds of cool stuff. But to start back at Hattie McDaniels, Sidney Poitier, we're going forward, and then we skip all the stuff like Uptown Saturday Night and Dolomite, and we skipped. They brushed over Pam Grier. They brushed over that in like 5 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I thought this was a documentary about black film created by black people, and you're not even deep diving on what black film is. Like, now, big shout out to giving all the props to like Robert Townsend and stuff, because he's been putting it down for a minute, but they skipped all that. Yeah. To kind of put to bed this whole British black actor thing. And I think that the story is getting conflated with people being against the actors. The argument isn't that the actors aren't good or we don't like them. The argument is against the system that chooses them instead of choosing us. And it's even worse because it seems that even in roles that we, meaning American black people, are writing, producing, and directing, are still choosing them over choosing us. Right. So it's not a situation where we're mad at, say, Daniel Kaluuya or John Boyega. They're just an actor taking a job. It's at the systematic casting of that actor over a black actor. And what almost makes it worse is they do this kind of thing that white people do, where they throw up this barrier that they know you can't pass. So in other words, they're theatrically trained in RSC, which is this like a film school, or I guess theater school or whatever, all the way in the UK. So it's like, I can't go to that school. It's impossible. The general rat race that black people are put through financially, and I can barely get to college in state. So now your new barrier is that I need to go to RSC because all these actors from RSC are so amazing, and it's written off. There's a brother in there that wrote it off as these guys are theatrically trained and you just have the look. And I'm like, I feel like they sold black actors short.
They're moving the goalposts.
They moved the goalposts and they sold black actors short in that moment. And Spike Lee did that too. Spike Lee said something about like them being at RSC and something like, you've only been in like a music video or something to that. I'm paraphrasing. I know I'm messing up, but he said a quote about like, meaning American black people have only been in like music videos or something, and now you want to act. And I'm like, so where did you study before you made your films? Did you study at some classical film school? No. You know what I'm saying? But now you're regarded as Spike Lee, so it's like you want to put up these barriers that weren't there for you, that the rules that you didn't play by because you were the renegade, you were the rebel at the time. And now all of a sudden there's these barriers for black actors in America. And I'm like, I don't mind playing the game, but call the game what it is. Yeah. Don't make this documentary and kind of put this in to make it seem like you're absolved of this. Oh, well, of course we would cast them because they're so amazing and they're theatrically trained. And it's like, that's not what we're saying. Theatrically trained or not, you don't see this happen when there's other roles coming up. Like, for instance, they've talked about white actors from, say, Australia or Canada. And you never see them bringing up, oh, well, they were classically trained at blah, blah, blah school. You know what I'm saying? They're just like, no, we casted this guy and that's it. Like, if you want to cast them, just say you're going to cast them, but don't put up this fake goalpost or fake, gate in front of these people when you know that you're giving them a role for another reason. And it might be because they're your friends. There might be because you know that the people that are hiring you to make this, to make this movie see American Black as somehow less than foreign Black. But I want to get into some of the comments because you guys have been weighing in, and thank you for weighing in. First off, Panda says Fred Hampton. Yeah, there's a film where Fred Hampton, the guy playing Fred Hampton, is I believe from the UK. Let me know.
Seriously?
I believe. Yeah, the guy.
Seriously.
Yes, Fred Hampton.
Okay.
Fred Hampton.
So the head.
But I mean, they already did King.
So the head. So the head of a movement.
Yes.
That is completely unique to the African American experience. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So VV says Ava seems to have an agenda. And I lost it real quick. Sorry. Let's see if I can find it again. If I can't find it, I will come back to it in a second because it just like jumped real quick. Here goes. Oh yeah. Ava seems to have an agenda which will make me not support her work. Yeah, she's been moving in some funny ways, and not where she's just crazy or saying anything out of the way, but she just does weird stuff every now and then. Like, remember when she jumped up on social media like, "Don't call me auntie"? It's like, stop acting like you 25. Like, what? Why are people? There's this ageist thing. There's this ageism thing where people are so scared to grow up, and that's a whole other thing.
Well, and also with that, you don't know when you're being paid a compliment.
Yeah.
If someone refers to you as auntie, it's not to call you old and disrespect you. It's to say that I revere you. I hold you in high regard. I hold you in high regard. You're not quite at the level of mom or grandma, but auntie, because in the Black culture, you respect your auntie. You see your auntie as, of course, maybe like a second mom.
Yeah.
Not grandma at all, but it's someone you look up to, someone you respect, someone you like.
Yes.
So
then big shout out to Herbert Scott up in the chat. What up? Nice to see you up in here. Kibi says, good point with African/African American experiences. It's no disrespect or dissension. There are distinct differences and similarities that are unique and beautiful. Yeah, that would be like casting me to play a Black role of a Black leader that was in UK, in the UK movement. I'd be like, I don't understand. Like, racism, trust me, white people have done their thing all over the world, but there's a difference.
Yeah.
The brand, like I say, the brand of racism is different. It's still racism, but it's different. And I didn't live through it, and I don't have friends that live through it, and I'm not stuck in it today. And I can't taste and touch and feel that. You know what I'm saying? Big shout out to VV said a lot of African American actors come out of Juilliard, Yale, Howard, and other good schools. And other good schools in America. And Panda says, as if American Blacks aren't classically trained. They are. Thank you. Let's see. Kibi said, right. Spike Lee, show us your credentials. Yeah. It's like, come on, man. Like, you just picked up a camera and got to it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with standing up one day and being like, I'm going to do this. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, on one hand, we want to praise that, the entrepreneurial spirit. Go out and just make it happen. Work hard and just go out and just start acting. Start being in stuff. Start trying. Start giving it 100%. But then say, oh, well, since you did that, and since you didn't go to ABC school that we, use as our gatekeeping, facade, you can't be down with us. You know what I'm saying? It's just funny that this documentary would almost use its time to almost undermine Black American actors. And not the whole documentary, but it takes a sliver of its time to do that. Big shout out to Caramel Macchiato. What up, what up? Shout out to the QA. QA Cookie is a writing friend, well, ex-friend of Lonnie Love. But moving on, with Alan Lewis says they could have talked about the impact of the 80s films, the 90s films, and the 2000 films, positives and negatives, more in depth. Yeah, this documentary is coming from Ava DuVernay's company is flimsy. It's almost like a book report.
Yeah.
It's not as in depth as it could be, especially with the documentaries we've been getting. The Wu-Tang documentary was fresh. The R. Kelly documentary was on point. Yeah. The documentary on Rick Rubin, that was good. We've been having some solid documentaries as of late. Yeah. And then you get this on black film from black people.
And my thing is this.
And it's flimsy.
Yeah, my thing is this. You know, to be positive, like I love a lot of what she did in it. I love how she went into detail with like Harry Belafonte. I love how she had them list their credentials, you know, in terms of the films they've been in. Yeah. But there was no flow. Like, you know, are you going in chronological order? No. What order are you going into? And like I said, I saw she would like they would pop up, you know, different subtitles, I guess, but yeah. it still didn't make sense. You know, and those will go by fast, and it's like, okay, we're going to talk about this topic, and these people apply to this topic. Then we're going to jump all the way over here, and it's like, I'm not understanding your flow. I'm not following. Yeah. You're going back and forth.
The title cards were the title cards didn't seem to match the artistic direction of the rest of the documentary. Weird. It was just words over like smoke or something like that. It was weird, but the documentary was something. Honestly, I've seen YouTube documentaries done better. And that's sad when you've got the connections and the access to capital that these people on YouTube do not have. Also, big shout out to Hassan in the house. What up, what up? Nice to see. Or is it Hassan? Let me know. And NLG is in the house. Talk about I have the high ground. Let's see. Herbert Scott says Ice Cube deserves accolades in film, especially acting. I'm including his NWA character and calling as noir method acting. But he started a lot of careers and gives slices of ADOS life. Yeah, they talked about John Singleton and they talked about Boys in the Hood, but they didn't go into the fallout of that film or any of that. It was just, I don't know. It was just light, like very light, very surface level. And it's something that I expected to be much deeper than it was. And it's a shame that it wasn't. And it's a shame that they tried to handle the Black British actor issue as if it was just American Black actors that weren't qualified enough hating on them.
Right.
And I think that was messed up. And I would love, Ava DuVernay, you watch the show. I know she watches the show. I would love to interview you and get your insight. Why was it cut like that? Why was it edited like that? Why did you not have Samuel L. Jackson come on to illustrate his point? Why did you skip over blaxploitation? Why was this? A whole bunch of questions about this documentary. I know it's your company. I know it, any of y'all, please feel free. NERDSoul, y'all know what it is. Y'all hit me up in DMs. Y'all know who I am. Anyway, Alan Lewis says, at this point, put me on the staff. I know how to do research in depth. They could have divided black film from each decade into a multi-part documentary. Thank you. And it would have been easy for them.
Starting with Harry Belafonte, because I love that
the stories that he had were great.
Yes, I love that they pretty much started with Harry Belafonte. I thought that was a great and proper place to start, but then after that, you jumped all
because then they went back to Hattie McDaniels, and I know Hattie McDaniels is not like she's walking around where we can interview her, but they just jumped back to her, and then they jumped back forward.
And then came back to Sidney Poitier, and it's like
what?
We're not following, I mean, for a younger person who watched this and wanted to follow, they wouldn't be able to. We're older, so we kind of know what time period these people are in. But someone who's younger and who wanted to watch this and follow it, they're like, Okay, are these people still living? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's funny because Sketchnificent said, did they mention Tyler Perry? No, they didn't. And say what you want, Tyler Perry is a significant part of black film in the, I guess you'd say, early 2000s. Or maybe late, well, you might as well say early 2000s. I think the first movie was like 99 or something. Yeah. When was his first film?
I don't know.
When was Diary of a Mad Black Woman? Was it like 99 or was it after two? I get that time mixed up, but I want to say early 2000s. You can't deny his impact on black film. And the actors that he has revived their career or the actors that he has given a career. You know what I'm saying? Tika Sumpter, won't nobody checking for her. Let's be for real. Until Tyler Perry, you know what I'm saying, gave her life. Won't nobody really thinking about Tika Sumpter like that. Candy.
Until what? Yeah, but she was on stuff before that.
But nobody was really thinking about her as like a lead type actress.
Okay.
Nobody was. But yeah, see, Vivi says Paul Robeson wasn't mentioned. That documentary was whack. Let's see, is this show on Netflix? Yes. It's a documentary series on Netflix. I believe it's 5 episodes. I think it's 5. It might be 6. It's something like that, but it's a documentary series. I want to say 5 or 6 episodes. And they vary between, say, about 40, 50 something minutes. Why are people messing with the, you know what I'm saying? Now people messing with the
no, it's the crock pot.
Oh yeah. I'm like, yo, I thought it was the people at the thing. So no mind. We good. So Caramel said Tyler Perry is obsessed with black struggle love films. And Hassan says they didn't have the clear thought process or even linear explanation to that process.
Right.
Yeah, so it was just weird. And I think it was done bad. And what struck me was the whole British black argument. I thought it was messed up. And they dissed black actors, even if indirectly, unfairly.
Yeah.
But I'll leave that. I'll get my hands off that. I'll leave that alone.